Absolutely. I'll say hello, turn over to Brandon. So, hey, everybody, Kelly Kohlleffel here. I am, as you can see, I switched beach to lake right now. Enjoying that. I hope everybody is gearing up for a great holiday weekend, enjoying lunch as well. Thank you to Fivetran for providing that. Looking forward to sharing some thoughts and insights with you, some perspectives on what Hashmap has been doing in this space. We spent a long time, I guess, close to a decade working with clients around data. We're not necessarily industry experts. We work across about 20 different industries, but we are data experts. So looking forward to sharing thoughts and experiences. And more than anything, please use that chat window and fire questions at us. We'd love to get your thoughts and ideas there. Get your questions. That's really it for me. I will join you back here in a little while. Brandon, how are you doing today? What's going on?
Doing well, thank you, Kelly. Nice to meet you all. My name is Brandon Chen. I'm part of Fivetran in our product marketing team. But prior to that, I was lucky enough to work with our sales team as a sales engineer. And the only reason I bring this up is because I can personally vouch for how much expertise Hashmaps and especially consultants like Randy Pitcher for Hashmap, one of my absolute favorite people to work with. Not just because he's a good person and fun to work with in general, but also because he's able to immediately cut down, and these are a little loose numbers, but immediately able to cut down 95% of internal arguments at client sites, just due to them trying to figure out what is the best way forward, because he has that product knowledge and market expertise. And excited to talk to you all today about how you all can make strides towards modernizing your data stacks. Cool. So today, the areas that we'll be covering are, number one, obviously done introductions already, but number two, we'll start to go over some of the more legacy data architectures that we've seen, along with some of those challenges that come about as a result of that legacy stack. And then we'll start to introduce what we talk about and what we're thinking about when we're talking about the modern data stack, as well as what Fivetran's approach is to the space. And then Kelly will round us out with the Hashmap overview, as well as what a modern data stack, or why a modern data stack. And ultimately, we'll round things out with Q&A. But for those of you unfamiliar with Google Meet and Google Chat, feel free to throw in comments as we're going along through these presentations, whether it's a clarifying question or just a comment about how this has affected your experience. We often find that the way to make this better for everyone is if everyone works to make this better by chiming in with various thoughts or questions that they might have about the content that we're presenting.
Yeah, also, Brandon, I think just everyone, you probably see a little raise hand button down on the bottom of the screen. That's also a really easy way for us to see who has a question. So utilize that button too. It's a very quick way for us to get to a question for you guys.
So the first things first, we'll just talk about a few of the challenges that we've seen from our most recent data engineering survey. Worked with conjunction with dimensional data to query, I think it was a few thousand data engineers about what are the typical challenges that they are facing. 98% of them are indicating that their data pipelines break frequently, with things such as schema changes, API changes, data type changes, with the majority indicating that they break at least monthly. And what that means is basically monthly downtime and just delays for your business. 68% of those data engineers don't have enough time to maximize that maximum value from the existing data, often due to things like the previously indicated stat of doing things like having to fix the data pipelines that they've originally created a while back, or somebody else created, and they now have to go through that process to figure out, hey, what was their logic flow here, and how can I make this work given the new business stakeholder demands? And then we have additional companies reporting that key data is not usable for decision making, or that they have delayed decisions, again due to those broken pipelines, or the lack of a pipeline in the first place. Ultimately, this comes down to time spent, time to value for analytics, making sure that all of your data is there so that you can actually do your job and start to help the business make decisions and make strides forward, using the historical evidence that you have and the data that you're already paying for across all those different tools and platforms that you have. And then Kelly, from your perspective, do you hear similar challenges from your clients?
Yeah, we do, Brandon, absolutely. I think that, one of the things that I've mentioned before, but we had done a LinkedIn poll fairly recently. Probably need to redo it at this point. I don't know that the answers are going to change a whole lot, but when we looked at the question was, what's the biggest challenge that you run into with your data today within your organization? And the leading 1 and 2 were data silos and data quality. Both are big challenges. Both are things, in my opinion, that Fivetran can really help with from a fully automated, fully managed perspective. So I think it's right in line with these percentages you're talking about and the challenges that you're talking about.
Thanks for that, Kelly. And a lot of these challenges actually stem from the complex architectures that we see oftentimes before the implementation of Fivetran. And there's a lot of things flowing through, right? Like there's a lot of things that you have to manage. A lot of the technical debt continues to stack up when you consider all the different sources you have and all of the different workflows that you have for those sources. And the workflows are only increasing, right? A lot of companies nowadays are adopting or making strides towards some sort of data science capabilities in addition to their ongoing like ad hoc querying and ongoing modeling and reporting and dashboarding that they're doing with their data. And then ultimately, it leads to things like gaining access to data just continues to compound problems. We have this sort of fun chart here indicating what the typical workflow might look like if you were a business user, or if a business user asks the analytics team how they can get a specific set of data in, or how they can answer a specific set of questions. And oftentimes this might be something like, in my case, marketing. I might go to the analyst and ask, I really want to know how well my marketing campaigns performed. In the assumption, if we're using the assumption that I'm working with a legacy stack and the analyst doesn't have access to that data at the time, they might need to go work with the technical resource to get access to that data. So that to get that data in, they will work with the technical resource, make the request to extract from whatever API that I most recently sent out my mail campaigns from. And then between the analyst and the technical resource, they would need to do the scoping, probably looping me in to figure out what kind of data we need, what are the parameters of data we need, how should I actually get this data modeled. And after the technical resource helps the analyst get that data set in, or if the analyst potentially has to take time out of all of their busy other work to get that data in, ultimately there will be a little bit of delay while parsing that API information and understanding the endpoints and understanding how to structure that data. And then they would take the data back, maybe create like a sample report or two, bring it back to me, the original requester. And then I'd say, we're missing 2 fields. There's 2 metrics that I really wanted. They would have to go back, the analysts, I should say, would then go back to the technical resource, relay that information, and then try to figure out, okay, get those 2 fields in, work those into the reports. And what this ultimately leads to is just a reduce in the time to value, a strong reduction in time to value just due to these ongoing technical processes. And the entire situation I laid out, it was with the assumption that you have the technical resource to begin with. In some cases, if there's no one dedicated data integration on the various teams that you work with or on your team specifically, you might not be able to get access to that data for weeks or even months. So ultimately, that leads to these 4 challenges. The data team isn't able to make as large of an impact as they would be able to if they were simply able to just access data a lot quicker using some tools or frameworks. And that time to insight, again, is extended out just due to just getting access to begin with, which in turn causes a limited capacity for you to focus on data modeling, as well as work on other work outside of even just maintaining or building those pipelines. And as time goes on, data starts to become more and more outdated, right? Because with those pipelines breaking, with those pipelines not doing any sort of ongoing extracts or loads into your destination for analytics, ultimately the data starts to become staler and staler and staler, which in turn means that the decisions that you're making become staler, become less informed, which undermines the whole purpose of the analytics program to begin with. And ultimately, unreliable data is, you can interpret it with your company parameters in mind, but the idea is that if you're going to have unreliable data, then you're making unreliable decisions, and you're still making them with just a partial decision or partial information in mind. And for Kelly, do these challenges resonate with you and your customers, or are there any that are perhaps more prevalent than others?
Yeah, it is. I think that, legacy to me, you start talking about certainly complexity that builds in, and You know, a lot of us have got databases that are sitting on-prem today even, right? You've got Oracle, you've got SQL Server, you've got maybe DB2. And I think that, you know, just on the surface, you go, you know, how am I ever going to get that data up into the cloud? How am I going to get it into a usable format in my cloud data platform? And again, I think it's another area that, you know, if I want to use that data, I want to get it in a trusted, reliable, usable state. You know, there's some interesting ways I think you're going to talk about here in a little while that can be done. But yeah, legacy stack can be a little daunting, but I think there are ways to simplify it for sure. I guess I'd throw out too, Brandon, to the group here. Do you what do you consider a legacy, maybe a legacy data source that you've got, whether it be on-prem or in the cloud? If you guys want to throw that into the chat window, that might be interesting just to see the you know, kind of that diversity of data sources that you have out there, especially databases too. So feel free to put those in the chat window.
And again, the chat is just in the top right corner, your standard chat bubble. Feel free to drop a note. So when we're talking about the modern data stack, I'll give you a moment to take a look at this and digest it. I know oftentimes it's hard to both be an active participant as well as listen to what's going on. So when we're thinking about this modern data stack, what we're thinking about is we're thinking about mostly capabilities. I know the difference between modern and legacy gets a little confusing. You start to hear different companies, more legacy companies, saying they're part of a modern data stack as well, because who wants to be seen as a legacy tool? Ultimately, when we think about the modern data stack, though, let's narrow it down to these capabilities to make it a little easier to digest. Obviously, you want support for a variety of data sources. If the intent of your analytics program is to make sure that you're making the most accurate decisions, obviously you would want to be able to support the integration of all those sources into your warehouse for consumption for downstream analytics. You're looking for automated data integration, where automated and we're kind of conflating two topics. We're conflating automation with fully management. And in the Fivetran lens, those are two essential components to each other. Being able to automate the data integration piece from everything from paging the extract queries that we're running to the actual loading and normalizing before loading into the cloud data warehouse for your immediate consumption and query readiness. And you want a cloud-based infrastructure, not necessarily just a cloud-based infrastructure where you have a server hosted somewhere by AWS or GCP or Azure, but a cloud-based infrastructure that doesn't require you to host the solution in the first place. That doesn't require you to stand up a server, do that sort of scoping exercise with your network engineers, and ultimately increase your TCO, not just through the server cost itself, but also ongoing maintenance of that server to accommodate large data loads. So in short, you want a cloud-based infrastructure that you don't have to manage. And that's part of the problem, part of the promise of cloud, right? Is that you don't have to manage as many things and you can have more powerful processes. And you're looking for in-warehouse transformations. With how powerful transformations, or warehouses, I should say, as well as alternative data destinations like, let's say, Databricks and the data cloud like Snowflake, with how powerful those things have gotten today, it's really efficient, really quick and efficient to run the transformations in your warehouse using a raw set of data to work off of, rather than constraining the data that comes into the warehouse beforehand. With transformations, you can then freely model them in the data warehouse instead, using those post-load transformations. And ultimately, this creates a platform, a foundation for your future AI and ML initiatives that many companies are gearing towards. If you're not gearing towards it today, the first step is, from the customers and prospects, prospective customers that we talk to, the first step is just aggregating the data. So keep that in mind if you have any hopes or ideas or plans for creating the foundation for your AI ML initiatives. Ultimately, all these capabilities result in increased benefits for your analytics programs, everywhere from reduced complexity from having way less tools than prior, reduced costs from all the maintenance piece, as well as just even things like storage. And ultimately creates a consolidated place for your analytics program to work off of and minimizes, again, some of those internal arguments that you may see day to day. From a modern data stack, ultimately, this is probably what you're looking at, is centralizing your data so that you can make decisions jointly from one single source of truth, rather than figure out, okay, what's the most recent Excel file that we have. And then the additional benefits are cloud-enabled scalability. That goes back to that management aspect, not needing to manage all of these different tools and servers and update them with things like patches as time goes on. And the goal of this is really to have higher data integrity and reliability so that you can have improved data insights. And that all of that really gears towards this sort of third middle-ish point of improved data insights, because ultimately that's what you need all of these scalability and integrity and reliability for. And then when it comes to the Fivetran modern data stack platform, here are a few of the tenets that we take. We have over 150 pre-built, fully managed connectors, where in our case, pre-built and fully managed means that you truly never need to update the connector. You don't need to do anything to maintain the connector going forward as things such as API versions change. All you'll need to do is authenticate, and we'll continue to do the extracts and perform incremental updates to make sure that your data stays refreshed. That end-to-end automation also includes not just, like I mentioned before, paging the extract queries and API calls that we're making on your behalf, but also making sure that we're appropriately updating those in the target destination in a very efficient manner to save on your compute load. And we're also very focused on reliability and just that fully management aspect, which extends into cloud nativity. So the reliability means that we are continuously saving last successful save states of your syncs to make sure that we can do things like guarantee 99% uptime and guarantee data delivery as well. And part of what plays into that is that cloud aspect of you not having to do things like give us access to your servers so that we can help troubleshoot the latest version of the software that we're on, let's say. And then here are a few those features that pair along with those pillars that I had mentioned before around what Fivetran does. Automatic data updates are a little bit of a given for a data integration tool. Obviously, you want your tool to continue to update the data, but the manner in how we do it is extremely efficient. Going back to what I mentioned before about that save state, about understanding where to pull those incremental data points from. So we're not having to do things like scan the entire system every time to determine deltas. So we can run a lot more of an efficient incremental load process so that you can get your data faster to make the insights that you need faster. We do things like handle schema drift as well. So whether it's a new custom field in your Salesforce instance or a net new column in your database, net new object that was created as a result of business processes, those are automatically accounted for with Fivetran, meaning that you don't have to do any sort of manual configuration, don't need to go back into the tool to trigger those sorts of things. They'll just continue to go and be loaded into your data destination so that you don't have any processes interrupted. So you don't need to extend out the time to value that comes about when the person who initiated that business process comes looking for that field. And that item potency piece that I mentioned before, being able to successfully restart and automatically restart again from the last save point in the case of intermittent outage. Let's say like an SSH tunnel is down to your database and we can't replicate from it for a little bit while you're standing that SSH server back up. In that meantime, we're just waiting, ready to pull from the last save state so that we can ensure your data integrity going forward, again, so that you can make reliable decisions. And with the micro batch architecture that we have, this refers just to taking the time to understand how our customers are using things like their upstream sources so that we can appropriately page our requests to not conflict with any sort of transactions in those source systems. And we have extensibility ranging from cloud functions to different file storages and even things like email connectors. So that in the case that there's a source that you don't currently see in our directory, you can still get your data in otherwise. So ultimately, you're trying to set yourself up for holistic analytics. Bringing in that all of your data sources is key and paramount to actually running a successful program. And the only reason I bring this up is because there are very common sources, let's say a marketing use case, where you want to bring in your paid ads immediately. You want to bring in your social traffic immediately. But think about how you can combine that with your product data. Think about how you can take that from just a simple clicks, impressions, calculated conversions, estimated value of conversions, to integrating with things like product data, perhaps hosted in your production database, so that you can truly understand, did that marketing campaign that I ran actually create the results that I wanted to in the product? Or did a lot of people just click, come to the product, and decide that thing is not for me? So doing things like integrating your databases in addition to all the other sources you have, and kind of broadening the scope of your data integration process, which is made easier by a tool like Fivetran, will bring you additional success as far as the depth of your metrics actually go. And we have a bunch of customers. These are 4 among 22,500-ish different or so customers that we currently have that have created business outcomes. And all of these different companies that you see today, all of these different outcomes that you see, if you want to dive into more about how they got to there in the first place, what their challenges were prior to entering Fivetran, we have in-depth case studies for all of these that can be found at fivetran.com/case-studies. And just a few metrics and context around Fivetran. Wow, we're over 530 employees now. That's impressive. We're over 500 employees now, growing from over, I want to say 200 or so, 300 or so last year. And the growth has just been really fun as a company. We have over 2 trillion roasting per month, well over 2.5 trillion roasting to this point. And we've had a smattering of things like Snowflake technology partner, Databricks technology partner, and offices across the world, so that we can continue to ensure that you have the highest level of support. I also wanted to highlight this 14-day free trial here in the bottom right corner. Fivetran comes with a 14-day free trial that doesn't start until you've actually finished your initial sync. So you can go ahead and stand up your trial and go and do your initial sync while working on your normal process in the meantime. Like we mentioned before, all you have to do is authenticate, and Fivetran handles everything from there, including everything from data extract to data load. You can even run a simple transformation on it if you'd like, triggered by Fivetran as well. Any questions before I hand it off to Kelly? Perfect. If you do change your mind and have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But now I'd like to welcome Kelly back to the virtual stage.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Are you able to see that Fivetran Beach Bites and Business Insights?
I am.
Good. All right. Hey, I did want to mention too, so again, Kelly Kohlleffel, thanks, Brandon. Great info. I'll try to follow that up with some things, just, our perspective from Hashmap. I do want to introduce, so shout out to Ryan Paradis. Ryan, I see you down there. You want to give a quick intro?
Hey, thanks, Kelly. Yeah. Hey, Ryan here, guys. I'm covering the Northeast territory for Hashmap, so excited to work with you all. I'm coming to you from the Mediterranean today. I wanted to get out of the East Coast a little bit and do some traveling. So look forward to hearing from you and hearing a little bit more about your challenges and where we can help.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Feel free to throw in a question or two if you have it as well, or comment. The other thing I'll mention too, Brandon talked about the awesome growth that Fivetran's had over the last few years. We just had Fivetran's CEO, George Frazier, on the Hashmap on Tap podcast. And so I think that was released last week. Would encourage you guys, if you're interested in hearing some of the trials and tribulations of the early days of Fivetran, where they were and where they are now. Just a really fascinating look inside to some of the thought process behind founding Fivetran and just the trajectory that they're on today, and some of the decision making that George and the team went through, and Brandon and Annie and team have been a part of all the way through, Rachel and team. So definitely would encourage you to check that out. Had to get in a quick blurb on that. And just real quick on Hashmap too. So I mentioned this earlier. I mean, we're consulting services. We're not a reseller. We do not sell you Fivetran. I don't sell you Azure, AWS, Google, or anything. We strictly do consulting services. So you say, hey, I need some help putting together this, couple of on-prem systems, getting that getting that data up into my cloud data platform using Fivetran and a variety of connectors. Maybe it's a custom connector. Maybe it's integrating it with dbt for transformation. We'll talk about it a little bit later on. Those are the kind of things that we do every day. Those are the kind of things that we love. I tell people all the time, we are the data guys. So when you need to know how to make your data estate work really well or work better than it is today, please give us a call. We've done a bunch of projects over the years, and really passionate about putting a lot of information out into the community. So I mentioned the podcast with George recently, but check out some of the training videos. I know we did one recently too on capturing Facebook insights using Fivetran, transforming with DBT into Snowflake actually. So that's out there on the YouTube channel. Check that stuff out. Love to help out and kind of educate, raise awareness in the community for sure. So these are some of the typical questions that we are asked. Why do people come to Hashmap? These are the ones that we get asked probably more than any other right now. I'd throw out there to you, what's that one question that's top of mind for you right now here going into the holiday weekend, but maybe beyond the holiday? Burgers or hot dogs or chicken or something like that, grilled mushrooms. That's probably the top of mind question. After that, what's that one thing around data that you're really looking to get answered, to get solved? Certainly, feel free to throw it into chat. I would say this. I won't read through these questions. I like to use a scenario. Three locations, each running 3 separate locations. Let's just say in the U.S., 3 different cities. Same company, each one running Oracle eBusiness Suite, which is Oracle's ERP solution. It does financials and HR and all those types of things. On-prem, had Oracle eBusiness Suite a while. I'm not up in the cloud or anything. And I have not been able to really combine those data sets up from a reporting and analytics and KPI perspective from these 3 different locations. I want to do that today, Kelly and Hashmap. I want to actually get that stuff up in the cloud. I'm an Azure or AWS or GCP customer. I want to get that into a consolidated data platform, but I don't want to have a bunch of work, effort, oversight, infrastructure around getting that done. I don't want to have to babysit this thing all the time. How can you help me do that and ultimately deliver those executive level KPIs or reports or new analytics or new data applications? Or new data science applications to the team? Those are the kind of scenarios that we're asked about that Fivetran really tends to be a nice fit in there, especially when you start talking fully automated, fully managed SaaS, some of the things that Brandon was talking about a little bit earlier. What I like, and so again, throw that back out before I go on to the next slide. Do you have a question that's really top of mind? Thanks, Brandon, for linking up the podcast. Throw that out there. We'll try to answer, give you our perspective on it. Brandon, is there anything that you're seeing, just on an ongoing basis as you're talking to clients? You've been at Fivetran for a while. What's the one thing right now that everybody seems to be looking to an answer for?
Everyone seems to be looking to answers for a lot of things in their programs, but specifically, I think everyone's looking for an answer, especially for more traditional companies or companies that have been around for a while, how to get to the cloud faster. And not only how to get to the cloud faster, but how can I take everything with me so I don't have to start from scratch, i.e. things like on-premise databases. I think it's a huge one, especially.
Yeah, I agree. I think the move from on-prem to the cloud with at least the data for sure, kind of like that example with EBS. I mean, I'm not replacing EBS with my cloud data platform, but I certainly want that data up there. And I mean, what you said actually is great. It kind of falls into my next slide here. Nice segue. I think, again, trying to give everybody on the show, on the webinar today, a little behind the scenes look into how we think. When we're designing an approach and a modern data stack, a platform architecture, these are the 7, call them the 7 S's. These are really the 7 aspects, 7 dimensions that we take into consideration. It's not so much that Hashmap thought these up. You see these a lot out there. These are the ones that we hear repeated over and over and over. Kelly, Hashmap team, this is really, really important to us. I gotta keep this simpler. I've tried for the last 5-6 years, let's say, with Hadoop and all the tools and capabilities there. It's really complex. It's to a degree just a challenging architecture. Can you help me simplify some things and ultimately hit that speed to impact equation? I can't wait a quarter or 2 quarters or 3 quarters or years to get this done. I need speed to impact, speed to relevancy really is what I think what we're all looking for. I know our clients ask us for, when they ask us to help them for a project, what they're really asking for is help me be relevant to the data consumers within my organization. And in order to do that, one of those dimensions is we got to move fast. We can't have these long drawn out projects. Sustainability, repeatability, reliability, count on ability. Those types of things really important. Don't make me use Gorilla Glue, duct tape and baling wire to hold all this stuff together. Just run it for me. And don't make me have a bunch of operational oversight beyond that. Getting to self-service, again, certainly can be a challenging target to hit, but if you can do some of those things that Brandon was talking about earlier around data quality, data reliability, around the data pipelines that you have, that self-serve aspect for your data consumers becomes much more of a reality for sure. Security, scale, savings, those types of things. And definitely want to throw out to everybody what out of those 7 S's, and I'd love to get the answers on this, so I hope that you will take a look as my screen has disappeared here. Hang on. Throw the question out while I'm trying to see where I am here. Which of those 7 S's is most important to you? What have you seen more than any other? Can you guys still see my screen, by the way? Yes? No?
Yes.
Is
Okay,
it
good.
flickering?
Sort of.
Okay, we see it now. It's good.
Flickering. Hang on. Let's see what we can do here. Something happened electronically in my office here that did not like.
We see it now.
All right. Are you guys able to see that? 7 S's? Yes?
Yep.
All right. All right. So this, and you see that slide. So what matters most to you? Put in the chat window. Again, just really interested to hear out of those 7. You don't have to just pick one, pick 2 or 3. Ryan, let me throw over to you. I mean, you're talking with clients all the time, multiple industries all the time, a lot of different use cases. What's the one for you that you hear more than any other?
I think from a broad level, Kelly, self-service and sustainable kind of hit the nail on the head a lot of the time, just from providing end users with the type of reporting and access that they need to run the reports themselves, right? In our modern world, I'll say, it seems very strange to have to submit a request to get a specific type of data set, or wait a couple days for those reports to turn around internally on the IT side. So a lot of business is being done on a lot faster scale these days. So a lot of the reports need to just work, right? I need to be able to log in on a Tuesday morning and be able to understand how the marketing campaign performed over the weekend, different things like that, and be able to gain some of those insights based on more real-time analytics. And that's where the sustainability piece comes in, because you really need to be able to rely on that data, and it needs to just again work. It doesn't need to be a manual overnight process. It's just something that, again, I log into my computer on a Tuesday, a Monday, or a Thursday afternoon, whatever the case might be, and I can access the data in real time. And I know that the process that's set up is a sustainable one, and one that brings value and insight to me on a daily basis. I think is what I hear most of our clients talking about.
No, that's great. I agree. Brandon, on your, haven't been at Fivetran for a good while. Has this changed at all? In the early days, was one of these more important, and now you're hearing customers mention another? What's your perspective on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one that we'll probably always hear, not just limited to data integration, but probably for us or our lives, is probably savings. How much savings we can get from the Fivetran perspective, from like personnel maintenance and management going forward, including things like the infrastructure that I was talking about before. But more and more recently, we've been hearing a lot more self-serve. Like a lot more just the ability to do things by yourself, not have to rely on other teams, using the power of the different software and tools that you have available.
Yeah, no, that's good. The other thing on savings too is as you're going through that, I think that most of us are really liking the consumption-based model. Pay by usage-based, right? I mean, it's definitely something that as opposed to doing a, kind of a 3-year capital outlay or something like that, let me pay for what I use. And I think we're getting, we're doing that personally. And I think from a business perspective too, it's really nice to have SaaS services like Fivetran that provide that. All right. I cannot do a Hashmap presentation without the obligatory architecture slide. This one's pretty simple though, but I think it does certainly call out a few interesting points, and we'll kind of go clockwise on this, take you through a modern data stack, 7 dimensions of things that you need to keep in mind, because it's not, Fivetran does not solve everything. It's one part of the equation. So you want to be thinking about some of these other dimensions as well. We've got some solutions in there that you can certainly, we see. In fact, somebody asked on the last one of these we did, what's your dream team solution set or tech stack or modern data stack? And to me, this is kind of the dream team that's in this slide. So the first one that we will talk about is right in the Fivetran sweet spot. It's really this notion of data acquisitions. All the things Brandon talked about. How can I have 200 plus connectors that can literally connect up to just about anything on-prem or in the cloud? Even if it's not an out-of-the-box connector, likely there's a way or a method or a configuration option within Fivetran to do that. And not create this massive amount of overhead. I get fully managed, fully automated, all that infrastructure effort taken out. That is where, again, you see a small representation here of data sources, but on-prem to the cloud, everything in between, it works really, really well. And then where is Fivetran persisting this data? Where's it going? A lot of our customers today putting it in Snowflake, but you got many options as targets with Fivetran as well. Brandon talked about some of those, but somewhere you're going to need to do compute and store. You've got a ton of options out there as it relates to compute today. If I'm using Snowflake or BigQuery or Synapse, but maybe I'm using some Azure functions, other things that allow me to do low-cost compute as needed. And certainly storage is really dirt cheap now at 20 to 25 terabytes per month. You're just not going to beat that even in your own data center environment. So that should not be an issue for anybody today. I think that, data enrichment, combinations of data, lineage, some of the data quality aspects. How can I really start using the power of my cloud data platform? In this case, in this example, Snowflake. Is there a tool I can use to really make myself more effective versus, I don't know, creating a bunch of stored procedures or something like that to do transformations or do processing? And dbt does a really fantastic job of that. In fact, Fivetran's created a number of dbt packages that you can definitely check out on Fivetran's website out of the box. No charge for these. dbt is an open source solution. There's a paid version as well, dbt Cloud, if you need those additional features, but really a nice solution to do that transformation, enrichment, and processing within the cloud data platform using that elasticity and scalability that we all know and love with solutions like Snowflake. So that's your fourth. And then I'll throw both of these up together. And Brandon talked about this too, but man, I think, when you look at all the data sources that we're having to get into the cloud today, I think that's being driven obviously by what are these workloads that everybody is going after today. And these workloads behind these are, tens of hundreds of use cases. We talk to clients all the time that are just so far behind on developing their use case. The demand just continues to expand within their organization across all their business units. And it's because now it's not just doing one thing. It's not just BI reporting. It's not just some new analytics. I'm doing, some interesting data sharing. I've got my data scientists. I've got AI, ML workloads that I'm trying to drive as well. Maybe some predictive analytics. I've got alerting, a number of things from a consumption standpoint with use cases behind. And then on top of that, I've got this incredible platform that Fivetran, dbt, and Snowflake are driving. How can I take what's there, the data that's there, and then wrap that back to maybe an operational application, wrap it back to Salesforce, or to Zendesk or to something else to get not even the, I've got this really incredible historical analytics going on, but what about doing some things in the moment as the opportunity presents itself? I can present that back to a customer support person or maybe a salesperson via that operational application. So you talk about those data apps and activation, really interesting. Again, something that Fivetran and this modern data stack are facilitating. And then lastly, I think, cloud choice, we look at it, talk about it all the time. We had a client, probably about a year and a half ago or so now, a couple of years ago, that mid-project switched from Azure to AWS as their primary public cloud. And if you're locked in on certain solutions, it makes it really difficult. When you've got a kind of an open ecosystem type solution like Fivetran, Snowflake, dbt, gives you a lot more flexibility there. It wasn't a big deal to get that particular client onto the AWS public cloud. And then automation as well. How can I really make this, again, more predictable, reliable, and automatable all the way around? So that's our high level modern data stack. Certainly would take any comments on that. I guess I'll throw out the question to everybody. I appreciate Scott on the 7 S's: sustainability, security, and scale. Yeah, very those resonate a lot with many customers. I will throw out, let's see, what do I want to do? Do you have a cloud data platform today? If so, what is it? Snowflake, BigQuery, Synapse, Redshift. If you don't have a cloud data platform today, what are you looking at? What do you have your eye on? What's that top one? And I guess I'll put another plug in. We did a benchmarking and analysis of the top 6 or 7 cloud data platforms, and we're actually redoing it right now to be ready prior to Snowflake Summit. So if you want to check that out, reach out to Ryan and he can get something set up for you. But really interested in what do you got your eye on, or what are you using today? All right. Brandon, let me ask you, connector-wise, because you mentioned a lot of them earlier. Is there one, let me say, database connector? What's the most popular database connector right now that you're seeing more than any others?
The most popular one based on our customer usage is MySQL.
Okay.
We're seeing strong growth in both MySQL and Postgres, just adopted across a lot of newer companies as well.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, business outcomes. I think this is what we're all driving towards. Brandon had a similar slide. I'm not going to dwell too long on this. The one thing I would say that we really try to do, our perspective is work backwards from the business outcomes that you have, those use cases that you're trying to drive, and that will flow down into the technology that you need to enable that. If you've got a use case that has time, SLA restrictions, or particular things that you need to do that a long drawn out, say custom development project or a lot of operational oversight is really not going to be conducive to helping deliver. That may help build out for you some of those technology choices that you have. There is, all of these, I think, on this, I'm just trying to look it over. I mean, we've talked about a number of these. To me, usable trusted data, I keep going back to that. That's the one that, if we can do that, there are a lot of use cases that you can drive from that, a lot of outcomes that you can drive from that as well. And there's a couple of things, 3 things that I wanted to point out as you're looking at this modern data stack. Start thinking about, and you guys these aren't new terms, you've heard this a lot. Start thinking about doing your transformations in the cloud data warehouse. I talked about that on that architecture slide. You're going to have less data movement. You're going to have less cost. You're going to simplify your architecture as well. So really start digging into, if you're doing maybe a traditional ETL approach today, look at what you can do by reversing that just a little bit. Secondly, whatever that cloud data platform is that you either have today or that you have your eye on, dig into it, find out how Snowflake handles caching, for instance. I'm persisting and replicating my data. I'm doing change data capture with Fivetran into Snowflake. but I'm also now consuming from Snowflake. Can I balance, my SLAs with my cost basis, for instance, by doing things a particular way, using caching in a particular way, or maybe it's just native to that cloud data platform, how caching is used, for instance, that's going to help me not, produce so much cost, for instance. So keep me out of any surprise scenarios. So definitely, we linked up the Snowflake benchmarking there. So definitely, if you're interested, check that out. Hit us on that particular URL. Or just reach out to Ryan. And then thirdly, there are, we're talking about Fivetran, then talking a little bit about Snowflake DBT, under no mistaken illusion, misperception that there aren't a lot of options out there. And I think all of the vendors are probably coming at you going, hey, we'll handle, 800 use cases for you with, pretty much anything that you need to do. We'll throw it at you and try to make it happen. And I'd say, you do get into this option fatigue scenario where it becomes really tough to make choices. And sometimes you almost get sort of paralyzed around, okay, I don't want to make the wrong choice here. And the thing I'll tell you, and again, I'm not trying to make a Fivetran pitch here. I just really think it hits those 7 S's very, very well. You have nothing to lose by trying out Fivetran on a data source or two. Try it out on an on-prem data source. Try it out on a cloud data source. See if it'll help you with that number 3, avoid option fatigue. You're always going to have, some other ways that you can approach things. But man, if you're looking to simplify and speed things up and hit some of that sustainability, security, and scale that Scott was talking about was important to him, I definitely recommend it. Speaking of recommendations, you can also hit that URL and go to the Hashmap Recommender. 10 simple questions, pretty fun to work on. I mean, it takes you probably 30 seconds to do, maybe a minute to do, and it'll actually produce, in kind of a fun way, a recommendation for you based on how you answer those questions. And it's not the same answer every time, I'll just tell you that. So check that out. And then we've also got a data integration workshop that you can take advantage of if, again, you're struggling with this notion of option fatigue. I will point out, I know we're running low on time, so I will highlight, first of all, a lot of different industries, a lot of different use cases, a lot of different ways that you could leverage Fivetran and your cloud data platforms to drive business value. One of the areas across industries that we've seen a lot is in the digital marketing space. How can I get a better view of my customers maybe, or how can I make better decisions around my social spend or my ad spend, those kind of things. There's a lot of ways to really improve your business insights by collecting, not only collecting this data, but actually driving meaningful insights, meaningful decisions around it. The one that I like to use a lot as an example is actually a healthcare firm that said they wanted to spend more on social and ad spend, but they didn't. Their data wasn't in a place. They used an agency, and their data wasn't in a place where they could do that quick enough. They were just guessing. I mean, they had more budget, but they had to guess on where this was, where they should spend it. So they used that same combination in that dream team architecture that we were talking about earlier to really be able to facilitate that and start looking at, day over day, week over week, month over month, year over year, where should we put those additional ad dollars to make themselves more efficient and more effective there. I would also tell you, just as a kind of a little bit of a wrap up here, keep those 7 S's in mind. Be outcome focused. Don't try to get the super tool that does it all. Nothing does it all. It doesn't matter what it is. Don't get enamored by trying to find the super tool, and modernize where you can. I think I've told you quite a bit here, but this is some of the things that our customers are saying. I'll skip over to the one on the far right. I really feel like mentoring and coaching is important. Doing something certainly has value, but why were you thinking about doing it that way? What were the options that you considered? What were the perspectives? Those types of things. And I, again, kind of throw it out to you. What's what's most important to you when you are looking at a new design, new architecture, new project, new solution? What do you really focus on, or do any of these resonate with you? Is there something else that's important to you? Would be interested to know. And then lastly, this is where you can reach out to us. These are the kind of things that we help clients with, everything from assessment strategy all the way through to the workshops that we talked about. So I hope that was helpful. Few perspectives, few insights, few URLs, maybe a lot of URLs, too many URLs to check out. But I think it's going to be helpful content for you as you're going down this path and really trying to drive more value with your various organizations. So appreciate the time today. And I think Brandon will certainly take any questions on, I don't see anything on chat at the moment, or take any audio questions too, I believe. Annie?
Yeah, I have been monitoring things as they're coming through. I think we touched on the majority. If anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to come off mute or drop that in the chat. Otherwise, we can give you all a few minutes back. Brandon or Ryan wanted to give you an opportunity too, if you wanted to add anything additional before we all dropped off.
There's before Ryan and team, there's one from Ernst, it looks like, Annie.
Yep, that just came through. The question is, what is your view on ELT?
Brandon, you want to talk about that one? I think I hit on a little bit earlier, but talk about it from a Fivetran perspective too.
Sure. So when we're talking about ELT, what we're actually probably talking about is E little t, capital L, capital T. And the reason I say that is because in the process of doing things like, let's say, database replication, we need to make sure that the data types are comparable between the database and the data warehouse. So when we're talking about ELT, what we're talking about is the philosophy of loading everything in from something like your on-premise or cloud-hosted database into your data warehouse, making sure that along the way the data becomes ready in a query, becomes available in a query-ready format. And part of that does include the little t of making sure that it's compatible with your warehouse. But following that larger T is usually used for things like, let's say, downstream modeling. And that's how I see ELT. And if there's additional questions you have on that, feel free to point them in. But I see ELT as just empowering your business to make a lot more agile decisions.
Yeah, Ernst is asking, would it become the prevailing data method? I just, comment on that. I mean, for our clients, we've done a lot of these projects over the last 4 years or so in the cloud. And I wouldn't say it's 100%, but it is, we're probably hitting off 8 or 9 out of 10 that are going this direction or talking about going this direction. I think there's just too much value associated with it. When you look at the consumption-based model that you can use with your cloud data platform, and as long as you're controlling that cost and you understand how to monitor it, it really can bring a lot of not only cost benefit to you, but again, some of that speed and simplicity to the overall equation. I think that the modern data stack solutions like Fivetran, DBT, that's a core premise for how they thought about these solutions right out of the gate.
And we will be providing all the resources that we've touched on today in a follow-up email along with the recording. So you can take a look at those, and obviously always reach back out if you have any additional questions. But again, appreciate everyone's time today. Hope you got some good lunch. Reach out to me if you had any issues with that. But thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Have a great holiday weekend, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Good one.